Welcome everyone to my video on Dying Light 2 Stay Human, 1 year later. Is it worth it? Let's get into that. So Dying Light 1, why did everyone love it? Including myself. The game was great, having smooth parkour moves with a zombie game, trapped in an abandoned city of Haran, Turkey. Now, this virus broke out and there was no origin to it, but there was all sorts of different strains of zombies and people really enjoyed it. And that captured the essence of one of the greatest games of all time, in my opinion. And it sticks with that today. And there's so many good reasons. See, like in most zombie games, there are different strains of the virus or different types of infected, which there is in this. And how it went is that there was the basic sluggish zombies during the day with other ones, such as the viral, which could run and dodge. There was the toad, which would spit acid at you. The demolisher, a big brute that could charge at you and throw debris. The goon, which was big as well, but slower and not as strong as the demolisher. But then there was one king of the infected, the one apex predator, the volatiles. Volatiles are one of the most iconic creatures in gaming that I know of. And it even gives Dying Light players PTSD if they hear it. The volatile scream is so iconic, and they had an incredible design. The thing about the night is that it's the most dangerous. You will be terrified. But is Dying Light 2 like that? Sure, it keeps all of the original infected from the first one and changed their designs, but added new ones. And the new ones didn't need to exist. I'm gonna be honest about that. They had a charger, just a baby demolisher. I mean, just kind of like the charger from Left 4 Dead. Very simple. It just charges at you, and you can only hit it in the back. Or there was an infected that didn't even officially have a name, the Drowner, which was hyped up since the 2019 E3 trailer. And it sucks. It's like the bomber, the infected that explodes, and a viral, but not as dangerous. And that was really depressing. It looked like it had such a great design with like bone shrapnel coming out of its arms. But then no. But Dying Light 2 had more mechanics of parkour. We had the paraglider added. It's just a paraglider, and you can roam around the city and gain air, and it was great. They redesigned and redid the grappling hook, which was like Spider-Man. You would zoom up. It was not like an actual grappling hook. But now in Dying Light 2, they changed that, where now it's like Tarzan, as they keep saying. And I still like it. It was great, and you can use it on enemies with great precision, and it was great. But now let's get into the story of Dying Light 2. So they kept saying that they had choices. Your choices will cause consequences, and there's not much consequences. Like you do have like 6 different endings, but they're really minor changes. So first one, the story was boring but still great. Like I said, dude that wants to find cure, and main villain is just a drug lord, essentially. And I find this pretty good though. The story is better and characters aren't as bland, even though they were still really great in the first one. What changes the characters is how much more vibrant they feel, because actually in the first game the virus broke out after it was actually cured, but a vaccine was created, but the people that designed it wouldn't stop experimenting, making a new strain of the virus and it releasing into the world, causing the world to get destroyed. Everything is almost dead. So, everything is dangerous apparently. The new infected, new strains make them more dangerous than the original. But I don't understand. It's not really. See, the infected in Dying Light 1 were great, and they have cool new designs in Dying Light 2, but I feel like it's underwhelming. See, the night in Dying Light 1 is more dangerous, but it's not as scary. See, in Dying Light 1, we had the volatiles at night, but then your first encounter was amazing. It was hectic, it was at night. I crapped my pants almost the first time I saw it because it had a good jump scare. And Dying Light 2, no, in the story, you see it pretty early, and it's the volatile. It's supposed to be horrifying, but no, I didn't feel that at all. So, but back to more story elements. So, the main antagonist is this dude named Waltz. Waltz apparently kidnapped and experimented on Aiden Caldwell, the main character of the game. So, Aiden is not like any normal person. He was experimented on with the virus and weaponized, basically, without him knowing. And this caused him to have inhuman strength, speed, and durability, making him a superhuman. But he didn't know this at first. So, he wants revenge on Moltz. That's the story. But also, trying to find his lost sister, Mia. He loved Mia, but they were split apart once an accident happened in the lab, and they were never seen again. So you spend your time trying to find Mia. And the world is destroyed. Aiden lives outside as a pilgrim, outside of cities, wandering around, just doing his business. And Villador in Europe, the map in Dying Light 2, is the last, like, surviving city in the whole world, as everything else is destroyed. There's nothing else out there. And Aiden is he's some dude. He's like a hobo, basically. But he's pretty good. I feel kind of a connection with him. Let's talk about Kyle Crane from Dying Light 1, the protagonist of, well, 1. People enjoyed him, and he was cool. But, spoiler, at the end of the DLC for Dying Light 1, all 3 endings he dies, essentially. One ending, you nuke the whole city. Second one is a secret ending that you nuke again, but different results than earlier, probably. And then there was the third ending. Kyle had to ingest a serum that turned him to a volatile. And at the end it was shown that he was a volatile, probably sentient, but he's lost and assumed dead. So then we switched to Aiden Caldwell, 15 years after the outbreak happened. It is 2030, and everything sucks. But people make up for that. Now, let's talk about more of the infected. So the infected in the first one were dumber than dirt, and it was fun. They would slip and fall off of buildings. And in Dying Light 1, their AI is sort of like that, but depressing. Like I said, at night, the volatiles are not as scary anymore. There's big changes, and they had a new design, which was neat, but it didn't hit the same. Like, now we have the bandits that are bandits, really similar. There is factions in the game, which causes splitting up with different people, and so some of the things that go wrong. But there are a big change which I hate. Most of the infected are now at night. The virals, the demolishers, the goons. Here's a goon, but he's really rare now. And Like everything, it was just the goons, the demolishers, and the normal runners. Demolishers are still rare though, and more common at night. And this really upset me because then it's just all normal biters around at night. Like they had a new infected only at night, the Revenant, and another one called the Banshee. Banshee even got its own comic about it. And Revenant was teased, and people believed that it was going to be this crazy new Night Hunter, basically, from the first game, in which a player controlled zombie, which killed the survivors. I mean, the players. And no, they're just these boss fights, which are pretty meh. And the Banshee has long claws and it jumps. That's all. It's fast and it jumps. For something that has its own comic about it, it's not that good. So let's talk about the events. Dying Light 1 had some great events. We had Halloween events, space-themed, even another DLC that was mythical, like dragons and wizards and night-themed. It had a Minotaur. It was great. All those were cool, and they had bundles. But then, 2s are depressing. During the winter event, there was no snow, and there was 3 reskins. The normal biters were like elves, and they were green. The demolishers were giant snowmen, and they threw giant snowballs, which were actually kind of better. But then the bolters, which is another type of infected, which run, they kind of look like Santa a little bit. But that's not good enough. See, all it would do is you get a Nutcracker skin and some weird Nutcracker sword and some presents. They weren't worth it at all. They were terrible. But then the newest event for the 1-year anniversary is actually pretty cool. Even though there's not much to it, I enjoy it. They brought back Kyle, technically, as a bundle. If you own both Dying Light 1 and Dying Light 2, you get the Kyle Crane skin, which I really enjoy. There's 2 others, Rise, the main antagonist of Dying Light 1, and Brecken, a side character. And I find this really cool. So, I enjoy it. And they even give you, for a weapon, the Spectral Bat, which was a common legendary bat you could get in Dying Light 1 with redeem codes. And when you redeemed this, it was pretty powerful. But in this, it's decent. I don't know. The events are kind of lackluster. But something they brought back that really intrigued me was legend points. Legend points were something in the first game where if you maxed out 3 of the skill trees, one skill tree, I bet, just any one of them, you could increase your health, your strength, and everything more than the normal skills would. And there was like 500 levels to this, so a lot of grinding. And they're back, but not as much, just only weapon focused. You don't get more stamina, more health, more durability. It's just you have increased damage and you recover faster from landing safety. But that's not as much. A big controversial thing about like weapons and stuff, Dying Light 1 had weapons such as guns. And there's no actual guns in Dying Light 2. They're all non-existent. Like they have like guns such as little secondary shotguns, but they barely do anything. And that's not good. So, like let's say during the events, the Space One had 0 gravity, and it had 0 gravity. Like you could fly around, and all the zombies were virals, which was pretty actually decent because you had more targets on your back, and in 1 the virals would always knew where you were, essentially, as long as you were close enough. But 2, not as much. I've been saying, they're not as good. Now let's move on to DLCs. the Dying Light 1 DLC, the main story one, was a continuation. Roughly a month after, or no, a year after the first game. I mean, and it was really cool. More open, no buildings, and you could have a Doom buggy riding around, upgrading it. And this followed a cult of believers with the Mother, and the Mother was this god, and she like could make people immune to the virus, and it was pretty cool. It had a great story and good upgrades, but then Dying Light 2, its DLC was released. It's not a continuation after the story, but I actually enjoyed it quite a lot. Bloody Ties is based in a coliseum. You fight through championships and stuff because some dude's son wants to be in it, and he was like, no, his dad didn't want him in it. But you go trying to save him, and you go through all these challenges, and you can either become challenged, like after you go through all the challenges, you could become champion or surrender, and that was it. But the first DLC was way ahead of it, even though Bloody Ties is still great. Let's walk around at night. See, hollers start chasing us now instead of just volatiles. These guys, they scream at you. And then we have the bombers. They explode. Very simple. That's all I can say. Spitters. They spit. And then volatiles aren't as common. Volatiles were everywhere in the first one, and now there's barely any. See, if you want to get Dying Light 2, I think it's worth it just to continue the first game. But no one's barely even playing it now, because there's no reason to. I have 4 playthroughs, but it's okay. I mean, I still enjoy it, but it's only because of the updates that I check out, and it's like, oh, this is a little neat. But then, there was not much else. Like I said, if you want to get it, go ahead. I thought it was worth it, especially I pre-ordered the Ultimate Edition. But this is your choice, and if you want to, go ahead. Well, goodbye. Stay human.